Good afternoon. This game was £1, and with good reason. The price of a vegan sausage roll from Greg's, and possibly less deservingly. Oh, it's got more crud on it. Bit of brown, something. Besides that, in very nice condition, which was kind of the only reason that I chose to buy this now. I mean, it just seemed like, I went into town basically feeling like a wee jaunt, this is kind of my weekend. It's a Monday, but it's my weekend. Anyway, just kind of relaxing little shop. Anyway, £1 was perfect because I didn't really want to spend money. And this is, it is a Final Fantasy game, so it sort of rides on the coattails of collectability. I don't mean value or rarity, just that that's I suppose a category that I would like to have in my collection. Final Fantasy games, they are games that have been dear to me, that I've played a lot, that I kept up with to an extent. I suppose this was actually even this was before I was playing Final Fantasy games. Actually, its release, I faintly remember. In fact, I faintly remember adverts for it on TV, and although it's not that I was fully aware that Final Fantasies generally had, unique, distinct storylines and worlds. 7, 8, 9, they don't really have anything directly to do with one another. Although not necessarily being aware of that at the time, I was immediately struck by the numbering system when I saw this game advertised. Despite knowing almost nothing else about Final Fantasy, the name Final Fantasy X-2 was immediately puzzling. But I suppose when I did play this, it was relatively new. It was probably Final Fantasy 12 certainly wasn't out. I bought that new. That was really the first one I played new of the mainline Final Fantasy titles, and one of the only ones that I've played that I haven't completed played properly, because it's very long and kind of dull. I'd like to complete it at some point. Maybe I will do that. But this game, I did play and complete. I didn't do I never got the kind of perfect ending. I tried, but there was a couple of missions I missed. And although it's quite a quick game to play, I didn't bother going back. There's one mission actually that I couldn't complete for some reason. Anyway, this game is, I think, deservingly I don't really know how much it's mocked. Certainly people I've spoken to, friends of mine who have played it, kind of all share the same opinion on it. This sticker is really making a mess. Oh well, I'll sort that at some point. What's the cleanest path? See, I don't want to stretch the plastic so much either. It's inevitable. Anyway, Yuna's character in Final Fantasy X is she's very quite conservative. She's inhibited to an extent, and her story is quite a solemn one. And then Final Fantasy X-2, she's basically a crime-fighting pop star. It's very silly, and they all have these sexy outfits. It's basically Charlie's Angels Final Fantasy. It's very stupid. But the game itself is there's things that are, the battle system's kind of fun. It's a bit jammy. Like it's a bit it's almost like RPG hack and slash. It's ostensibly turn-based, but kind of an active time battle element, and there's also a sort of a job system. It's slightly real time. I don't know how I'm going to clean that off. It's really annoying me now. It was so pristine before, and it still is. I mean, it's even got that dubious 9 out of 10 rating sticker on it. Anyway, that's again, don't want to touch that with my nails. Anyway, yeah, it's a pretty stupid game, but it's Final Fantasy, and it was so cheap. Why not? And it has its instruction manual, things like that. It's got guns as well, a bit odd. The thing about the PlayStation 2, in a place like CAX, and CX as well, right, it's not like there's loads of other shops like that anymore. God, it's like this game hasn't been played. They knew better than to play it. There's so many PlayStation 2, and I suppose it's just from the sheer popularity of the console. It's got the biggest amount of games on the shelves, other than current generation consoles. There's loads and loads of PS2 games in CEX wherever you go usually, and so many of them are dirt cheap, and such a high proportion of them are things like early Pro Ev or like wrestling games or things like that. But even kind of not such kind of shovelware. I don't know whether you'd class something like Pro Ev as shovelware. Supposedly it's actually quite a good game, but it did they did churn them out, didn't they? Maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe that's a prejudice against sports games. But even kind of more, the sorts of games I would like. Games like I'm thinking of like Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, like Devil May Cry. Final Fantasy, like these kind of video gamey action adventure games, that sort of thing. They're all really bloody cheap, usually. I'm not sure why that is, because GameCube games aren't as cheap as that, and there's not nearly as many of them going around either. I suppose that's just because the PS2 is so popular, and especially the games represented on the shelves are the ones that people bought and passed on, especially these games that had a new edition every year. Anyway, so it's often occurred to me that, games that I didn't play on the PS2 at the time would be super duper cheap to pick up. Like playing the other Devil May Cries or Prince of Persia or things like that. You can get them for £1-2 each. I don't know, loads of games like that. And yet the impetus is never there. I never really see the point in buying on that day, because all the games in question they're not uncommon, so they're going to turn up again. So there's never any. I can never bring myself to buy these £1 or £2 games. But today felt like the day to buy this £1 game. Yeah. There we go. Maybe I'll play it again at some point, because my deep suspicion with the storyline and the kind of the true ending, the good ending, which I've seen a cutscene of it before, is that it doesn't give any, doesn't bestow any deeper meaning on Final Fantasy X and therefore justify Final Fantasy X-2. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, the idea of this real person on which the dream kind of Tidus was based sort of makes sense, I suppose. There was a Zanarkand. The Zanarkand Tidus knows was an illusion, was a dream of the faith. And so there is a story to be told about the real Zanarkand, which we know even less about than Tidus' Zanarkand. So I suppose that makes sense in terms of the is the guy's name Shuyin? Although I'm struggling to remember where he was actually a blitzball player in as it turned out. I thought he was, I can't remember. Off the top of my head, the Yuna's counterpart in these visions, in these it's the movie spheres, isn't it? That makes a little bit less sense to me off the top of my head, but it was so long ago. So I don't know. It's not like all of that context doesn't make any sense or kind of makes a mockery of what was set up in Final Fantasy X, but the conclusion, the true ending thing where Tidus comes back, as I remember, I'm struggling to see how that makes sense or how that or why we should care. In any sense beyond, oh, that's nice, we like Tidus, and here he's back again, that makes us feel good, which is it's pretty shallow. So anyway, maybe I'll play it again. It has, after all, a giant enemy crab, which is quite nice. I remember that. It's funny actually. That's one of the first bosses, and I was only faintly aware. I use that term a lot, don't I? I'd heard of the whole giant enemy crab kind of joke at the time, but I didn't actually know where it came from then. And I remember sort of being aware of it at the back of my mind when I played this, thinking, "Is that the giant enemy crab?" I didn't really know the famous giant enemy crab. Anyway, cheerio.